currently standing here with the Chief of Police of the City of Birmingham. The solution to gun violence is not law enforcement alone, nor is it the City of Birmingham elected officials alone, but it's a comprehensive partnership. That partnership has to include private organizations and neighbors. But let me take the time to state that standing here with the Chief of Police of the City of Birmingham. The solution to gun violence is not law enforcement alone, grandparents, nor is it the City of Birmingham elected officials alone, but it's a comprehensive partnership. That partnership has to include private organizations and neighbors. But let me take the time to state that standing here with the Chief of Police of the City of Birmingham. The solution to gun violence is not law enforcement alone, grandparents, nor is it the City of Birmingham elected officials alone, but it's a comprehensive partnership. That partnership has to include private organizations and neighbors. But let me take the time to state that standing here with the Chief of Police of the City of Birmingham. The solution to gun violence is not law enforcement alone, nor is it the City of Birmingham elected officials alone. 19-year-old mother was killed. But it's a comprehensive partnership. That partnership has to include private organizations and neighbors. But let me take the time to state that standing here with the Chief of Police of the City of Birmingham. The solution to gun violence. Parking lot across the entire city. You can visit any small business parking lot. This is happening. Street racing, donuts, spin out slides. Call it what you want. But here's what we know. This is dangerous and it is a crime. But I have to be honest with everybody. Current law is not strong enough. It does not have enough teeth. And so I am committed to working with state lawmakers to make it easier. I want to make it easier for police to pursue these cases with the use of video. I am urging lawmakers to toughen laws to impound vehicles, provide license suspensions, and higher fines for those who endanger the public with this behavior. As a city, the Department of Transportation will take the necessary steps to put more stripes down on streets as a deterrent. I have more information to provide, but for now, I want to bring Chief Thurman up to provide a few remarks, and I'll come to address you if you have any questions. Chief Thurman. I have more information to provide, but for now, I want to bring Chief Thurman up to provide a few remarks, and I'll come to address you if you have any questions. So the officer, Chief Thurman.
It's our city, but gun violence and homicides is the #1 thing plaguing our city. Crime overall in the city is down. As to why they've occurred, they're just absolutely.
I have more information to provide, but
and
for
so,
now,
as I've said before, the
I want
community
to
has
bring
become
Chief Thurman up to provide a few remarks.
To assist. Law enforcement can't
I'll
be
come to address you if you have
everywhere
any
all the time.
questions. Chief Thurman.
The mayor said that it takes everyone coming together to deal with these issues. Exhibition driving is another big problem
and
for
homicides
the
is
city
the
and the police
#1 thing
departments.
plaguing our city.
It's
crime overall in the city is down. As to why they've
private
occurred,
property makes it even
they're just
harder for us.
absolutely.
I have more information to provide, but
And
for
so,
now,
as I've said before, the
I want
community
to
has
bring
become
Chief Thurman
the
up
mayor
to
said
provide a
with the
few
context of
remarks.
assist law enforcement
And I'll
can't
come to
be
address you if you have
everywhere
any
all the
questions.
time.
Chief Thurman.
The mayor said that it takes everyone coming together to deal with
Passed
these
to
issues.
hopefully help.
Yes, sir.
Exhibition driving is
Gun
another big
violence
problem
and
for
homicides
the
is
city
the
and the police.
#1
Other
thing
states
plaguing
do
our
have
city. It's crime overall in the city is down. As to why they've
private property
occurred,
makes it even
they're just
harder for us.
absolutely.
I have more information to provide, but for
So,
now,
as I've said before, the
I want
community
to
has
bring
become
Chief Thurman
the
up
mayor
to
said with
provide
the
a few
context of
remarks.
assist law enforcement
And
can't
I'll
be
come to address you if you have
everywhere
any
all the
questions.
time.
Thank you, Chief. At this time, we'll have.
Thank you, Mayor and Chief. I think it's important for the viewers and the people to understand the ramifications of your actions, to understand that the current law, as the mayor previously stated, doesn't have a lot of teeth. But based on some actions and results from your actions, there can be lifelong ramifications. We've talked about gun violence, and we all understand that gun violence is exorbitant right now. And we all understand the ramifications of when you decide to use a gun and take the life of another person. But let me just tell you also about exhibition driving, and I call it reckless driving, basically. If you partake in that activity and you ultimately hit someone who's a bystander, who's just standing there, and they die, that is a murder charge. It is called reckless murder, and you can be looking at a 20-year sentence. I want to say that again because I think oftentimes people don't understand the ramifications of your actions, and people think when you think of murder, you think of a gun. But also, I think it's important for the public to understand that if you partake in this kind of reckless driving, and the people standing around, people watching, people walking across the street, people sitting in parked cars, and you hit them, and they die as a result of your actions, then we will be seeking murder charges. It's called reckless murder. So understand that when you decide to get in a car, and you decide to drive recklessly, and you decide to have a total disregard for human life, then there can be serious consequences if ultimately that person dies because of your reckless activity. So again, the mayor talked about the school year. He talked about having a great school year. He also talked about prevention and enforcement. I just want to echo those sentiments and say, let's make sure we make great decisions. Let's make sure families that you take control of your households and your kids and know what they're doing. And let's make sure that we do all we can as a team to end the violence in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Families take control of your households. I can't say that any better. So I want to thank Chief Thurman for being here. I want to thank the district attorney, who I know has a busy schedule, for being here. We'll take a few minutes. There's a lot of press here. We'll take a few minutes to answer any questions you may have. So,
what are you hearing from residents about whether the homicide rate or exhibition driving? Like, what are you hearing from them? Are they freaked out about it?
yeah, these are two separate conversations. Exhibition driving, we've been hearing for quite some time. And what we've explained is several things. One is that, honestly, it's hard to have an officer in a police vehicle just sit in one block for hours at a time. A beat is pretty spread wide, and they have to actually police the entire beat, not just one intersection or two intersections that are close to each other where this activity may happen a lot. And so in addition to coming up with ways to address that from a policing standpoint, we believe more checkpoints may be necessary. We believe partnering with Jefferson County Sheriff's Office may be helpful for us. We have a pilot with BPD that can engage and partner with the sheriff to provide some form of what I would say oversight in regards to how they're addressed. We acknowledge our policy. We have a no-chase policy. We believe that policy is beneficial to the public as a whole because we know some knuckleheads out here looking for their fast and furious moment. We're not going to give it to them. We have a duty to keep the public safe as well. That's why we're stressing to our legislators, if there is one exception to traffic cameras, if you don't have the appetite for running red lights or stop signs or failing to yield, make the one exception for reckless driving. Therefore, if the officer can't be in that one intersection, can't be at every private parking lot, can't be in every church parking lot or small business parking lot or on 3rd Avenue West or on 1st Avenue North downtown, at every single place across the entire city in all 99 neighborhoods at the same time, allow the submission of actual video so our officers can investigate and still hold that person accountable. What we're also telling our neighborhood officers is, with some of your neighborhood funds, this may be one of those great opportunities to use your neighborhood funds for an off-duty police officer to be in a particular area in your neighborhood. In addition to that, what I've shared with legislators is we need to explore getting insurance companies involved in this conversation to immediately drop a person committing or doing this type of driving. We think that'll get drivers' attentions a lot if they can't be insured, their vehicle cannot be insured. And so from that standpoint, we look at it as a toolbox, and we want to seek and use every tool within this toolbox to address reckless driving. I think on the homicide piece, Birmingham is not new to this. This is not a 2022 or 2021 or the last 4-year phenomenon. Unfortunately, in our community, homicides have never been at a number that any of us are comfortable with. One life taken by homicide is too many. What we seek to continue to do is share with the public. Don't look for your elected officials or your police to police our way out of this or enforce our way out of behavior between two friends who know each other, who have a relationship with each other, where a lot of this activity takes place in a private home or a private vehicle. We can't interact in those situations. We come in on the back end looking to actually bring charges and or bring justice through the form of our criminal courts. We need the public's help. We need the village help. And what the DA said, we need parents to take control of their household. Everybody wants to hold the people you see standing here in front of you accountable. The accountability goes and extends well beyond the three men you see standing here in front of you. Accountability should be across this entire community, which includes parents, which includes adults, all of us making better decisions that actually protects life. Who's next? Yes.
I know that you really want to get stuff to lawmakers, and I know that the next legislative session doesn't start until March 2023. What's the most immediate action that can be taken by the city of Birmingham to help prevent exhibition driving?
Yeah.
Especially for those families that just lost someone or are being impacted right now that want something right now.
Yeah, so the immediate action is more enforcement. Now, a few stats here. Reckless driving citations in 2020, we had 89. This conversation got louder in 2021, so that number actually increased. The city of Birmingham gave out 146 reckless driving citations. Between January 1 and July 31st of this year, in 8 months, we've given out 57 so far. We will continue to give out those tickets in the form of enforcement. But hear me out. That's not a deterrent. I think you all know current law that only gives a few points away from your license. If the law can change, then if you get one of those tickets, your license is automatically suspended. We impound your car on spot. You shouldn't be able to get it until you come before a judge. In addition to that, your insurance company should drop you. If we're able to do those type of measures, we believe this type of behavior, people will think before they actually do it. In addition to that, the actual use of cameras, right? As stated, this is a very large city. I'm telling you now, we're not going to put a police officer in every block intersection in the city. We're not going to put a police officer on every church parking lot or every small business parking lot as well. So having the flexibility and or ability to use cameras and those who turn that in to us to investigate, again, getting that information to insurance companies, getting that to our police, we believe that will be helpful.
But if that would be after legislation is passed, what can be done, say, within the next couple of weeks, couple of months?
More enforcement. More enforcement. Yes.
Mayor, you did reference actually the Department of Transportation and perhaps putting more strips down.
Right.
When could we see something like that occur, and what needs to be done? Could that act as a deterrent? Could we see numbers drop?
So what we've done, our Department of Transportation has been in steady talks with BPD. I can let Chief come up and provide more context to what I'll share. But just at a high level, the Department of Transportation has engaged. Let's look at other cities, how they address this. And there are companies that provide certain stripes. We use some of them actually during the World Games, and they were effective as it relates to entrance, exit points in certain areas around the perimeter that was set up. We believe that they can be used around certain areas in the city where this activity is higher than others, that would actually slow down some of that behavior in that area along with law enforcement. I think in addition to that, the process just to order them, there's a serious backlog. It takes anywhere from 90 to 100 days just to get them once council has approved them. And so we've already back in talks with our Department of Transportation to see if we can talk to the leadership of that company, expedite getting more of those on the ground to deploy them in additional areas of the city. Chief, you want to add anything to that?
No, just initially we'll begin putting them in strategic areas that are known for this type of behavior. We hope to do that next few weeks to have some of those out and try that out and see how that works, and then adjust accordingly based on if that curtailed the activity or not.
What exactly are those you're talking
They're
about?
portable speed strips, basically similar to like a speed bump. They can be put out and deployed in different areas, and so it'll cause the vehicles to have to slow down or get a very large jolt as they go over them, whichever the case may be. So we want to slow them down so they can't do these type of activities or speed through these particular areas.
And you're saying there are hot spots, you guys are tracking those?
There's different areas that we get complaints from some of the downtown residents and businesses about the noise at night, whether it just be the cars with the loud exhaust or maybe they're speeding through the area. So that there's just different areas throughout the city that we know that some of these things take place. It's just hard to put an officer at every one of these places. Officers get calls for 911 emergency calls and things of that nature. In addition, trying to just patrol their beat they're assigned to work as well. So.
Chief, on that topic, there was an officer on scene, it appears in some of the security footage earlier in the evening. It seemed like on Sunday morning, the crowd cleared out. And an hour and a half later, obviously the officer was engaged in other activity. That scene reappeared. Is that frustrating when you see things like that and you see that your team is doing their job, but at the end of the day, like you said, it is a hard thing to police?
Yeah, and so that's just proof that. And we had another private parking lot this weekend over on the south side where the officers came and they were dispersed them as well. And so the officers, it's not that the officers aren't doing anything. They tried to get out to those areas, but they can't sit in, as the mayor said, in one particular spot for an entire shift. And they have other areas to patrol, residential and business areas. They're subject to call. So there's a lot of things that keep them very busy throughout their shifts, and so it's very frustrating. We know the officers are trying because we see them there on the videos.
Yeah, I can suggest to private business owners or even churches who have these parking lots, secure your parking lot. You don't necessarily have to wait on BPD call when something happens. You can take preventive measures so people can't use your parking lot when it's not in use during business hours. I think that's another idea that we're suggesting as well. You had a question?
Yeah, a lot of my questions have been asked already, but that's okay. Mayor Woodfin, you touched on this a little bit in regards to other cities. Is this isolated to just Birmingham? And if not, have you reached out to other cities across the state to see how they're dealing with it? Are y'all gonna come together and go to lawmakers together?
So, listen, Big Ten mayors, and so we talk about this all the time as far as it relates to best practices around how to address an issue as well as a problem that we're all facing. So whether it's Tuscaloosa, Montgomery, Mobile, this exists. But I'll give you one, I'll give you another. I talked to mayors in New Orleans, Atlanta, Charlotte, Richmond. I talked to mayors across the nation. Like gun violence, this is a nationwide thing. I think each generation has a different way of how it engages cars. I believe when I was younger, people cruised down First Avenue. You wanted everybody to look at your rims or hear your music, right? I guess now everybody wants to see the stunts and all that type of stuff. So each generation is different. Here's the problem with what's happening now. It's actually very dangerous. People get hurt, property can get hurt. People have been hurt, and now we've had a young person killed. And so people want us to make
of how many reckless driving citations you may have had. What it does allow is for the driver's license to be suspended, impose fines, and possible jail time. So there's not a stipulation where the car can actually be taken. Other states do have that. We've given some of that information to our legislators to look at other states' laws so they can look at how they've been implemented, how they put them into effect, and the effectiveness of them to give them a guide to help form some laws here in Alabama.
And my last question, which one of the lawmakers are actually talking with you?
So we're actually talking to several legislators, and by the time the session starts, we'll be talking to all of them. This will be one of those things where it won't just be us as elected officials talking. During public hearings, we will be encouraging citizens in Birmingham to go down and testify from what they've seen, whether it's their small business, whether it's their church, whether you stay in a certain area and you've seen this and you see what it can do. So this will be a collective, full supported effort, not just from elected officials, but from the public as well.
Are there any names that stick out that have showed interest?
Oh, yeah, several.
Want to share that with me? Since we're ready to go.
Yeah, anybody else has any questions?
I have a question for Chief. Regarding the arson this morning, do you have any additional information, and is there anything in connection with the car of the missing man that was found?
We don't have that at this point in time. It's something we're definitely looking at, but we just don't have any definitive answers just because of the short timeline from this morning to where we are right now.
Lastly, Chief, did you get a chance to look at some of the security footage from the incident on Sunday? Can you provide a reaction to some of it? It was startling sights to people.
Yeah, and the most startling thing that I can say about the one on Sunday was that, one of the vehicles that was engaged in the exhibition driving struck another vehicle, and immediately someone began discharging their firearm. There was no discussion. There was no opportunity for the other driver to apologize, to make things right with the accident that occurred. It was just immediate gunfire. And it's just shocking that I don't think a lot of people really realize the total ramifications when they discharge a firearm. There has to be some conflict resolution. You think back years ago in school when different things happened in our country. You look at when AIDS hit our country, all the education that took place in our schools across our nation. There's got to be some conflict resolution in our schools to change the thought process of our youth. They've got to change the thought process of our current adults in our community as well. It's just shocking that someone just reacts so quickly without not even thinking. And now they're facing criminal charges before the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office.
One last question, anybody? Yes, you got the last one.
Piggybacking off of that, you talked a lot about it has to be at home, that discussion. Are you, after talking with kids, after meeting with kids and talking to them a little bit more, are you hearing those discussions at home about how to do the conflict resolution? Because you're saying you can't put everything on the elected officials. So what are you hearing at home?
So what I'm really saying is a team effort. This is Birmingham, Alabama. Let's acknowledge a lot of challenges exist in our community. What we seek to do is offset some of those challenges with some of the services we provide. So for example, with tax dollars, I mentioned earlier, we provide mental health, we provide conflict resolution, we provide financial literacy, and we provide apprenticeships and job opportunities for young people. We're trying to provide everything we can with the use of tax dollars to support our children and our families. What we're also saying is do not put your mayor and your 9 city councilors and your chief of police and all the police in one boat and think we're the only adults responsible for how this community is supposed to interact with and support children. It takes every single adult, not just parents, but an entire village approach. And so, in one hand, when I visit schools over the last 2 days, I'm encouraged by what I see. I see children with bright eyes. They're optimistic, they're hopeful, they're ready to learn. But we acknowledge some of them come to school hungry. Some of them come from communities where they see a lot of things that are not healthy. And what we got to do is continue to offer ways to offset those things and continue to encourage adults who have children in their lives to engage them better as well. That's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.